All right, welcome. I want you to think about the last thing you ate. Seriously, because chances are you are consuming one of the most powerful and fundamental molecules on the planet. And we're going way beyond just pasta and bread here. We're going to uncover how these tiny molecules build everything from massive trees to the very biological code that makes you, well, you. This is the secret life of carbohydrates.
So let's kick things off with a little puzzle. What on earth could a potato, a giant tree, and the blood flowing through your veins possibly have in common? I mean, they couldn't seem more different, right? Well, the answer is actually incredibly simple, and it's all hidden inside the world of simple sugars that we're about to dive into.
To really understand the big picture, we have to start small, like really small. We're going right down to the molecular level to look at the chemical blueprint that makes all of life possible.
First things first, what does organic even mean? Now, in chemistry, it has nothing to do with the grocery store or pesticides. It's all about one special element, carbon. If a compound is built around a carbon backbone, it's considered organic. You can think of carbon as life's ultimate Lego brick. It's the foundation for pretty much every complex molecule in living things.
So, how do these carbon Legos actually stick together? They use something called a covalent bond. Now, don't just think of it as glue. It's way more intimate than that. It's like a powerful handshake where two atoms literally share parts of themselves, their electrons, to form an incredibly strong and stable connection. This is the bond that builds worlds.
Okay, so we've got our basic atoms and the powerful bonds that connect them. Now let's get to the fun part, seeing how nature uses this simple kit to build the massive, complex structures that we see all around us. It really is all about building with blocks.
The first key term you need to know is monomer. The prefix mono just means one. So a monomer is the single individual building block. It's one brick, one link in a chain. It's the smallest piece that you repeat over and over again. And you can probably guess what happens next. When you start linking a whole bunch of those monomers together, you get a polymer. Poly just means many. So you take your single units, chain them together, and suddenly you can build everything from simple starches to the toughest materials in the living world.
But how does this linking up process actually work? Well, it happens through a really clever chemical trick called a condensation reaction. And here's the part that might seem a little backward. To build something bigger, you actually have to remove something small. In this case, a molecule of water. It's literally construction by subtraction. So picture this. Two monomers line up next to each other. A tiny little water molecule gets pulled out from the spot where they meet, and bam! That opens up a space for a brand new, super strong covalent bond to snap into place, locking them together. And in the world of carbohydrates, this special link has a special name, a glycosidic bond. All right, so that's how we build things up. But you know, what goes up must come down, right? So how do we break these big polymers apart? For that, we use the exact opposite reaction, hydrolysis. And if you break that word down, hydro means water, and lysis means to split. It literally means splitting with water. It's basically that building process just thrown into reverse. A water molecule wedges itself right into the bond that's holding two monomers together. This forces the bond to break, and poof, the two monomers are set free. And this isn't just some abstract idea. It's exactly what your body is doing right now to digest your last meal. It's using water to break down large food molecules into small units your body can use. You know, this constant cycle of building up and breaking down, it's not random. Not at all. These two reactions are the twin engines that power your body's entire energy economy. You probably know it by another name, metabolism. And your metabolism really has two sides to it. On one hand, you've got anabolism. That's the building up phase, using condensation reactions to construct complex things your body needs. And on the other hand, you have catabolism. That's the breaking down phase, using hydrolysis to smash molecules apart and release their energy. It's this beautiful, constant dance between construction and deconstruction. Okay, so we've been talking about these monomers and polymers in a pretty general way. Now it's time to meet the actual stars of our carbohydrate story. Let's get introduced to the main characters, the simple sugars. So, the proper term for a single carbohydrate building block is a monosaccharide, which, you guessed it, literally means single sugar. These are the fundamental units, and they come in different sizes, from the 5-carbon sugars like ribose, which is a key part of our RNA, to the 6-carbon sugars, which includes the one that pretty much runs the world. And here it is, glucose. Seriously, you could argue this is the most important simple sugar on the entire planet. It's the universal fuel that powers the cells of almost every living thing, from the tiniest bacterium all the way up to the brain cells you're using to process this information right now.
Okay, but here's where things get really wild. Glucose isn't just one thing. It actually comes in two forms, or isomers, alpha glucose and beta glucose. And the only difference is the direction one tiny chemical group is pointing. On alpha, it points down. On beta, it points up. It sounds like such a ridiculously small detail, right? But trust me, that tiny little flip changes everything.
All right, this is where it all pays off. We've seen the atoms, the bonds, and the basic building blocks. Now let's see what these amazing carbohydrate polymers actually do out there in the real world. This is where it all comes together. So when we take those simple sugars, those monosaccharides, and we link hundreds or even thousands of them together with those glycosidic bonds, we create a polysaccharide, a true many sugars polymer. And these are the heavy hitters, the molecules that do the incredible jobs we're about to see. Okay, remember that tiny little up versus down flip in the glucose molecule? Here's why it's so important. When plants link a bunch of alpha glucose molecules together, they create starch. That's the energy stored in a potato, and our bodies can easily break it down for fuel. But when they link beta glucose molecules together, they create cellulose. That's the tough, rigid material that makes up the trunk of a tree, and our bodies can't digest it at all. We call it fiber. Let that sink in. The exact same building block makes your dinner and the wooden table you might be eating it on.
Now, we animals have our own version of starch too. It's called glycogen. This is your body's personal, quick-access energy stash. It's packed away in your liver and muscles, just waiting for the signal to be rapidly broken down into glucose whenever you need a quick burst of energy.
But hold on, the story isn't just about energy and structure. Carbohydrates can also team up with other molecules. They can attach themselves to proteins, for example, to form these cool hybrid molecules called glycoproteins. And when they do this, they take on their most surprising role yet, acting as signals for communication and identity. And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. The potato, the tree, and your blood. The connection, as we now see, is carbohydrates. You have the starch in the potato, the cellulose in the tree, and amazingly, the very thing that determines your blood type. That's right, your ABO blood type is decided by a specific chain of sugars attached to the outside of your red blood cells, glycoproteins, acting as tiny molecular name tags, identifying you to your own body and to the world.
So think about that journey for a second. We went from a single carbon atom to a simple sugar to a giant polymer that can be both food and lumber, and finally to the molecular ID tag that defines our very blood. It just makes you wonder, right? If a simple chain of sugars can shape something as fundamental as our own identity, what else are they out there silently building and shaping in our world?